This video is not only for relatively experienced cyclists who haven't yet ventured into group rides, it's also for beginners, because you will enhance your enjoyment of the cycling experience by learning early on how to ride in a group. Riding in a group has several benefits, but it's something that many cyclists avoid, maybe preferring solo cycling, but perhaps also a little apprehensive about making the move, as I was before I took the plunge and joined my local club. So in this video, I'll take you through the benefits of group riding, the rules and recommendations to make it a safe and enjoyable experience, the verbal and visual communication among the group members, and finish at the end with some miscellaneous tips. I'd wanted to join this club for a while, saw their shortest ride was 30 miles, but I wasn't sure I would cope with the advertised average speed. But like any good social cycling club, no one will get left behind in a ride. But you just don't want that feeling that you're the one holding everybody up, do you? I would have joined earlier had I realised prior to my first club ride why that first ride was both quicker and easier than any 30 miler I'd done previously in preparation. The benefit of drafting. This chart shows that even the rider in front gets a little benefit. The benefit is then significantly more for those behind, with those fourth in line and beyond putting in less than half the effort to go the same speed as the cyclist in front. And this is based on a 1 meter distance between bikes, so not too close. As much as some people worry about riding so close to others, if it's done properly, what you do have from a safety perspective is safety in numbers. A motorist will never have an issue spotting you if you're in a group, and riding two abreast will give a small group of cyclists the same footprint as a car. Another benefit is just being with others and the company and on-bike chat that comes with it. And if you have a mechanical issue, you have help if you're struggling, or at the very least, some light-hearted mickey taking to pass the time. Here's what the UK Highway Code says. So ignore the claims of some motorists that you should be in single file all the time, because two abreast is recommended here. However, it is a two-way thing, and as much as I've heard of and seen many examples of angry motorists clearly not understanding the highway code, it's also up to us to avoid giving them reason to be pissed off through cycling irresponsibly. And this is especially important when a group of cyclists are involved. So two abreast is fine on wide roads where overtaking by a vehicle is actually easier if we give them half the distance to pass compared to cyclists in a single line. And we're no wider than a small car in that formation. Here you can see the group keeping in a single line because the lane is windy, making it impossible to see oncoming vehicles. And that caution has proved to be invaluable when a car suddenly appears. Here you see the group is singled out because a car is approaching ahead, and once it's passed, we all automatically move back to two abreast. Singling out here as a bike approaches, and here because our side of the road has parked cars on it and vehicles are approaching up ahead with the gap very narrow. Stop it. I'm sure you've all seen large groups of cyclists on the road together like some Tour de France peloton. This is not what's recommended by the likes of British cycling. If we demand more respect from motorists, then we need to show the same amount of respect. In our club, we have a meeting point, a planned route to and from a cafe, and an approximate start time. We set off at intervals in groups of 6 to 8 depending on how many turn up. So 6 to 8 isn't set in stone. If 10 turn up, it will be two groups of 5 for example, but it will never be more than 8. So generally, this is how close we will ride to the bike in front. But at first, if you're feeling a little nervous about that, then increase the gap until you gain your confidence. You'll still get the benefit of the draft. It's advisable, as you can see here, to ride slightly offset to the rear wheel in front of you. So a sudden braking ahead that you don't react quick enough to won't have your wheel colliding with the other. And don't do what is called half wheeling, where you're riding with your front wheel partially overlapping the rear wheel of the bike in front. It's considered rude by some, as if you're making some kind of statement about the pace being too slow, but more importantly, it's dangerous, especially in strong side winds, where a gust can cause an involuntary sideways movement, which will put you both on the floor after the wheels clash. When moving from two abreast to single file, make sure you're both aware of how that's achieved. Usually the inside rider accelerates and the outside rider drops behind. Both be aware of what you're doing though, so you're both doing the same, or you'll end up colliding with each other. Although it's great when you've discovered the benefits of drafting, don't be a wheel sucker. Someone who doesn't take their turn on the front. There should be continuous changes in the order. With no set time for being on the front, it is harder, so you do just what you can and then drop back. By the way, this video will be suggested by YouTube to other cyclists if the algorithm detects that people watching then give a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel and comment. So if you get anything out of watching this, please consider doing all three. I'd be really grateful if you did that. Anyway, back to the video. The riders at the front control the pace of the group, so keep it smooth and consistent. This avoids the need for those behind to brake because of sudden pace changes. As a solo rider, you might go for it when traffic lights start to change, or if there's a small but big enough gap at a roundabout. But if you're at the front of a group, you need to be thinking about the entire group getting through and not splitting up. On short descents at the front, keep pedalling, because those behind who are drafting you, if we're all freewheeling, will probably catch you. Hills generally are where groups get split up, and the best idea is to let that happen and agree to regroup at the top or the bottom. A long fast descent is too dangerous to be tackling in a close wheel formation, so increase your distance from the bike in front of you. And on a long steep climb, everyone has their own comfortable or maybe not so comfortable pace. Bear in mind, if you're moving out to overtake your slower breathless mate in front of you, someone may already be doing that with you. Look over your shoulder first, although that person may well call "on your right," which is the polite way of warning any cyclist or pedestrian as you're passing them and letting them know which side you're passing. Which brings me to calls and hand signals. These play a large part of making riding in a close group a safe thing to do. Most will be initiated by the riders on the front. In the case of warning of a vehicle approaching from behind, it will come from those at the back first. It's important though that these messages are passed up and down the line. A call from the back may not be heard at the front, especially if it's windy. And also bear in mind that in a club like ours, with many of the riders in their 70s and even 80s, not everyone's hearing is so acute. So repeat these warnings along the line to make sure everyone's heard. There are obvious right and left turn arm signals that you should know already, but as the group approaches a junction or anything else which causes the need to slow down, like overtaking a horse on a lane for example, then this palm down, up and down movement of the arm is usually accompanied with a shout, "Sorry!" and it's essential. If you then need to stop, it's arm out, palm facing backwards with bent elbow and shout, "Stopping!" If when approaching giveaway lines at a junction and the front riders can see there's no need to stop because there's nothing coming, a shout of "Clear!" will stop any unnecessary braking and stopping behind you. There may be a hazard on the side of the road that can only initially be seen by those at the front, especially on lanes with no path. Things like parked cars, dog walkers, or in this case, someone running. This signal tells those behind to move over in the direction you're pointing. It's done behind the back like this so as not to be confused with an indication of an intent to turn. Our UK roads are sadly famous for the number of potholes, so this one is well used. Cycling through a pothole can at best be an unwelcome, uncomfortable jolt, and at worst cause a damaged bike, an injury and a nasty crash. So pointing where these are and literally shouting "hole!" pothole warns those behind who can't yet see it. And you do this for various hazards on the road surface. It might be a slippery drain cover in the rain, debris on the road. I've even seen a finger pointed at a pile of horse manure with the cry, "Poo!" Maybe not a hazard that would cause an accident, but not much fun cleaning your bike afterwards, and you'll be surrounded by flies at the cafe stop while sitting on your own like Billy No Mates. If the hazard covers a wider area, then a circular motion with a hand as you point at the hazard covers that. Take corners slow in slippery conditions.
Watch the mud.
Mud, wet leaves or an oil spill need to be negotiated carefully. In a group, if you fall, those behind you may well join you.
Nice and slow, greasy road.
We saw earlier the group singled out as a vehicle or bike approached. The signal for this comes from the front rider to shout, "Car front!" For cars approaching from behind, it's "Car back!" by those at the back.
Car back. Car back. Yeah, you go. You go. Car front, yeah.
Some groups use car up or car down, which I found confusing. Is up ahead, or does it mean cars coming up from behind? Just know which your group uses and what they mean. Letting someone behind know that it's okay to overtake is done by this signal. Use this if it's a cyclist politely hanging back and if a vehicle is waiting to overtake. The vehicle should give you a minimum 1.5 meters, and they may be hesitating correctly because of this, so that becomes your call. They might be waiting to see if it's clear up ahead and can't because of a bend, and as you'll see it's clear before they do, it helps the harmony between cyclists and motorists by letting them know it's okay to go, but be absolutely sure. You don't want the motorist in a near collision to say that you told them it was clear. Personally, to be honest, I leave them to make their own decision. After once, on an otherwise clear country lane in front of me, suddenly wasn't clear when a car came out of a farm driveway without checking. When they're overtaking and it isn't so wide, the riders behind at the back should shout, "Coming through!"
Coming through.
And now possibly the most important hand signal. No, not that one. That's usually for when cars nearly squash you as they're going past. But this is a family show after all. The big thumbs up is what I mean. It helps cement harmony on the roads. There's enough close passes and angry exchanges. So why not show real appreciation when a motorist does the right thing? And finally, some miscellaneous tips. You are new to group riding and a bit apprehensive, so swallow your pride and your ego and tell the group that you're with that this is your first time. It's important they know that, and you will learn quicker with plenty of advice and encouragement. And if you're finding the pace too quick, for goodness sake, say so. It's a group ride after all, and they should happily make adjustments for that. Riding at the back at first makes sense, as you can see it all happening in front of you, and you won't feel so penned in with no wheels behind you. And you won't be accused of being a wheel sucker if the group already know you're learning the ropes. You need to be looking up through the group, not staring at the wheel in front of you, which you naturally want to do at first. By all means glance down to check this, of course, while you get used to being so close to others, but you need to see the road ahead and the signals from the others. You may sometimes ride holding the tops of your handlebars, but in a group, unless you're on the front, don't do this. Keep your brakes immediately accessible to react quickly to sudden movements from those in front. Control your speed as much as possible with the pedals, and just make tiny adjustments if necessary with your brakes to keep a smooth momentum. A smooth, consistent speed means a safe, comfortable ride for all. Mud guards or fenders for our North American viewers. Hate them if you must, but in the winter they are essential on a group ride to avoid splattering those behind you with muddy water, or even worse, if the farmer has overfilled the slurry wagon. At the very least, a rear mud guard is essential, and have a front one to protect your own bike's undercarriage and chain set. And folks, we all get mucus build up on bike rides, especially in the winter, but please, 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 leave snot rockets and spitting for when you're on the back, and on the opposite side to anyone riding alongside you. Thankfully, there's no video supporting this point. Enough said, I think. Cycling in a group for the first time can be a daunting prospect, and watching this can make you feel there's a lot to remember. But just sit at the back at first, watch and learn, and it all becomes second nature very quickly. You can still enjoy solo rides, as I still do, but you will open up a variety of new possibilities for riding. The fun, inspiration and camaraderie of riding in a group, like I found when joining a cycling club, cannot be underestimated. There's a video here about exactly that, along with another which I hope will interest you. Click on this yellow logo here to subscribe to the channel to see my back catalogue of videos and the future releases every week. Happy cycling, and I'll see you soon.